Welcome to MasterMold episode number 6. Today we're going to go through Listia finds, swap meet finds, thrift store finds, as well as trades. But before we get into that, I'd like to thank Daniel Guadalupe, who's been presenting on MasterMold his finds each week. Last week in episode number 12, he had mentioned that was going to be his last episode. I'm hoping personally that it was more of a season finale as opposed to a series finale, and that we'd hopefully get to see season 2 coming up soon after he makes his move. So thank you again, Daniel, for presenting each week, and the song in the background is dedicated to you. It's part of the God Hand soundtrack. Now with that said, I'd actually like to start going through different Listia finds. One of the first things that I did pick up, I picked up a patch from Dangerous Toys. It's a group or a rock band. I picked up the patch more for the patch itself as opposed to the band itself. So I'm hoping to add that to a jacket that I have coming in. After that, I was able to pick up one of the games that I've been looking for on the PS2. It's Shadow of the Colossus. I got it off of Listia, pretty cheap. Came fully intact. It came with a little mailer, so it's a nice condition game. Hope to play it soon. In addition to that, given on the Atari kick, I was able to pick up some 5200 games: Pole Position, Pac-Man, Defender, Super Breakout, and Football. So I was able to pick those up for pretty cheap. I think like 2,000 or maybe 2,200 credits, which is like $2 for all 5 games. Not a bad deal. And lastly, I was able to pick up a vintage Famicom game called Wizardry. I have the NES title, but I don't have the NES title in the box. But one of the things I'd like to show you is exactly how small the packaging was on the old Famicom game. So this is a Game Boy and this is a Famicom game, and it's a pretty small box. Let me open it up. Famicom standing for Family Computer, which was released by Nintendo over in Japan. So it's a much smaller packaging as opposed to its American counterpart. You need a Famicom system to play this, or some kind of converter for your NES system to play the Famicom games. So that was the last thing that I picked up on Listia this week. And next I'd actually like to go into different trades that I had picked up. This week's trades is solely on Trevor, and I was able to pick up an Amazing Spider-Man game, which seems to have eluded me. Here it is. Got an Amazing Spider-Man Game Boy game, as well as an ET, and some game cartridges for cleaning his systems. Again, thank you, Trevor, for the opportunity to pick up those games, and I'll have your games ready by next week. Next, I'd like to go over some different finds that I had picked up at the swap meet this past weekend. Oh, and by this way, this past weekend was Mother's Day. Hope sure that you had thanked your mothers and gave them a call and took them somewhere. On that same day, I was able to actually pick up 2 NES titles. I picked up Super Mario Brothers and Duck Hunt, as well as a really beat up copy of Wizards and Warriors. I'm just going to try to clean this one up and see if I can make it look new again, just as a challenge. But yeah, I was able to pick up 2 NES titles over at the swap meet, and as well, I did get 2 games, 2 common games, which had a little bit of a story on the background. I got Super C and Cutthroat Island. I got it from a really nice lady. She had told me that she was just looking to throw them away, so I was able to pick up both games for $1. So one person's junk is another person's gold in my case, so I was able to get both of these at 50 cents each. Not bad. And I'm not sure if I put the Pokemon Gold game up last week, but I picked up that recently, and also picked up Pokemon Blue. Got Pokemon Blue pretty cheap because I pointed out that the top portion of the title was kind of like rubbed out, so I got that pretty cheap as well. The reason why I'm picking up the Pokemon games is not that I can stand playing them, but when I put them on Listia, they sell pretty well, or I can trade it off pretty well. I get quite a few credits just for the Pokemon games, so I use that to pick up some of the stuff that you see me show on the different episodes. Another thing that I also picked up is apparently Lego has made girl Legos lately. So I picked this up. It's different. They look basically like the regular Legos, except, you know, more pink, rounded sides for the wheels and stuff. but it's not complete, but I was able to pick it up for like 2/4. So just showing a little bit different. They're out there. The figures look different as well. Couldn't find a figure though, so just glad to show you guys that. Another thing that I also picked up, Baron Von Duke. At first I thought this was a Ninja Turtles figure, but it is not a Ninja Turtles figure. It actually goes to a line called Skeletal Warriors. It's a pretty cool figure. It actually originally had some kind of head, like a hat or whatnot, like a king hat, and then he had this thing going across his chest with a bunch of skulls, and I think some kind of weapon in his arm. I think it's Baron Von Duke is his name. So it's a little bit different, but was able to pick that up. And at the same time, kind of got a rough shape Generation 1 Transformer. He still folds, and you can still make him move. Doesn't move too well on the magazine, but I was still able to pick up that Generation 1 figure. Nothing too nice, but fully intact and no cracks on it. In addition to that, I'm not sure how many of you guys are actually fans of the Dragon Ball series, but I did pick up this initial Dragon Ball videos. It says that it comes with an interactive game, so I'm going to check that out and see what that game is like, but I was able to pick this up, and it has like the first 13 episodes. And in addition to this, I also got a carrying case for the Game Boy Advance SP. Paid $1. Comes with all the cleaning materials in it. You can find these like everywhere at the swap meet. I just picked it up because it was clean and it was for $1. In addition to this, one of the last toys that I found during the day is a giant size Rocksteady. Rocksteady is part of the giant size figures for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. He actually had some kind of weapon that went in his hands. It's fairly large, still stands. Pretty cool. But I wanted to use him as an intro piece to actually the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles line. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles was actually created by two guys, I believe, Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird. And they had originally started off with the advertisement of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles on a magazine called, well, not actually a magazine yet or a comic book yet, by the name of Gobbledygook. And the original Gobbledygook was actually a photocopied printing that they did pretty much, they stapled it, they put it together, and then they had to advertise on the back of issue number 1 and number 2, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles for Mirage Studios. So if you were to argue like what was the first appearance of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, you could say either one, the introduction of the character on the back page of the original line, or you could argue that it was the first comic book with Mirage Studios that they were actually presented in. Either way, both of those books are very highly collectible. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to pick up any of the first 5 from the line, but I did pick up somewhat of a collection of Turtles comics. Now I'm just going to flip through these pretty quick, just so that you see the different titles, starting off with issue number 6 from Eastman and Laird's. You'll notice that these are not the Archies. A lot of the ones that you'll find will have Archie up in the top, and I'll get into that in a bit, but they had their own line through Mirage Studios before they had sold the rights over. So we got issue 6, 7, 8, 9. Instead of just rattling off all the numbers, I'm just going to flip through each one of these just so that you can see the artwork. The artwork is pretty cool on all of these. When it comes to the Turtles comics themselves, they're basically a version of actually Daredevil. You'll notice that there's a lot of similarities with the characters that are in these books versus the Daredevil comics themselves. I believe in Daredevil the bad guys were known as the Hand. Here they're known as the Foot, or the Foot Soldiers. Completely different view on what they did. And so I did pick up quite a few comics. I don't have the complete collection, but I'm pretty darn close to it with what I picked up. Just to let you know, the stack is actually huge. I think there's about 62 comics in all the ones that I picked up. Issue 36. Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird started off the Turtle comics back in 1984, and eventually it moved over from Mirage Studios, is where they had initiated. Got bought out by Archie. There are a couple of reprints of the first 5 issues, which are highly collectible. So if you can find any of the first 5, regardless of the reprints, definitely pick them up. They're not something that you would just pass up on. All these comics I picked up are pretty much just kind of like the dollar comics as far as value of themselves. Not very highly collectible, but I wanted to make sure to come close as far as finishing off the entire line as possible. And lastly, where did I come up with this? This is a trade paperback. It's volume 4. I've seen volume 1, 2, and 3. So I was only able to pick up number 4. And then these are the special editions. Still just kind of generic books. And then as far as when it comes to Archie, there was a 3-part miniseries to introduce the characters. This is issue number 1. Actually, I do apologize. That's issue number 3, and this is issue number 1. When they got bought out over and moved over to Archie. And then just to finish this off, I also picked up some Tales of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And that was just kind of an introduction to the comic books themselves. If you, like I said, if you get the chance to pick up any of the first 5 issues, definitely pick them up. Either one for how much they're well sought after, or 2 for the simple fact that I'd like to trade you for them. So definitely look those up, read up on them, and it's pretty interesting on how they actually got started off as far as the whole line itself. Other than that, not too much else to show you today. I do thank you all for watching. Again, Daniel Guadalupe, thank you for everything that you've done as far as making those videos. If it wasn't for you, I probably would have never started making the videos myself. It took my idea from thinking about doing it to actually pulling it off. Again, I hope I see Series 2 soon, and thanks again. This concludes episode number 6 of MasterMold. Have a great weekend.